I remember the morning after I retired. No alarm, no meetings, no rush. Just me, a cup of coffee, and a house so quiet it almost echoed. For the first time in decades, there was nothing I had to do, nowhere I had to be, and instead of feeling free, I felt strangely lost. I had spent a lifetime being needed, being useful, being someone. But now that the applause had faded and the roles had slipped away, I sat there wondering, is this what freedom is supposed to feel like? So many of us dream of slowing down, yet when life finally becomes quiet, we don't know how to meet it. We reach for distractions, for purchases, for plans, anything to avoid that unfamiliar stillness. But in the teachings of the Buddha, true freedom isn't found in doing less. It's found in being more present, more awake, more still. This is not a story about retirement. It's a story about returning to what's real, to what's simple, to what was always enough. And maybe, just maybe, to yourself. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Chasing Shadows. The illusion of more. You know, I still remember the day I bought that truck. Midnight blue, chrome, gleaming like morning frost. Leather seats that still held the scent of something untouched. I didn't think twice. I walked into the dealership like a man claiming his prize, 35 years of showing up, doing the right thing, staying late, saying yes. I told myself, you've earned this. And maybe I had, but here's the strange part. The thrill lasted, maybe a week. 2, if I'm honest. After that, it became just another thing in the garage. Sitting there like a statue, beautiful, yes, but silent. It didn't laugh with me. It didn't listen. It didn't fill the space I had just begun to realize was growing inside me. And one afternoon, I sat behind the wheel with the engine off and asked a question that felt heavier than I expected. Is this it? Have you ever chased something with your whole heart, only to catch it and find your hands still empty? The Buddha once said, desire is a trap, and the moment we fulfill one, another rises in its place. That truth lives not just in temples or ancient texts. It lives in our garages, our closets, and sometimes in the corners of our hearts we keep quiet. For most of my working life, I measured success the way the world taught me to, by accumulation. More hours, more paychecks, more square footage, more upgrades. And for a while it worked. It gave me structure, purpose, a sense of movement. But eventually, I became so used to chasing the next thing that I forgot what it was like to simply be still. Retirement was supposed to be a breath of fresh air, but instead, it felt like a room with no windows, quiet. Yes, but airless. It's funny how we fill our lives with noise, not because we love the sound, but because we're afraid of what the silence might say. And that truck, it wasn't just metal and wheels. It was a mirror. It reflected something I hadn't wanted to see, that I had built a life around doing, fixing, achieving, but not being. Not truly. I had neglected the sacred art of being with myself, without a title, a task, or a finish line. I had confused comfort with peace, and reward with fulfillment. One evening, I visited an old temple during a trip out of town. There was an elderly monk sitting alone in the courtyard, sipping tea as the sun dipped behind the trees. I asked him, half jokingly, how do you know when you've done enough? He smiled, not with his mouth, but with his eyes, and said, when you stop asking that question. That stayed with me, because the need to always do more, be more, have more, that's not a hunger of the body. It's the restlessness of the mind. And unless we learn how to quiet it, we will spend our days chasing shadows that vanish the moment we touch them. So let me ask you gently, not as a challenge, but as a doorway. What have you been chasing, and what do you hope it will finally make you feel? Could it be that the very feeling you long for, peace, belonging, joy, has never been out there at all, but always waiting quietly inside? I didn't return the truck. It still sits in my driveway, reliable and polished. But I no longer expect it to make me feel whole. These days I turn to something simpler, like the sound of wind in the trees, or the warmth of my grandson's hand in mine, and realize this is the real reward. We'll talk more about that stillness next, but for now, take a breath. Feel the ground beneath your feet, and ask yourself, not what you want next, but what you already have that might be enough. Chapter 2. The Power of One Still Morning. There's something peculiar about the early morning silence, how it wraps around the house like a shawl, soft and barely noticed unless you're willing to sit still long enough to feel it. I hadn't really paid attention to it for most of my life. Mornings for me used to be all movement, coffee brewing, news blaring, emails blinking red like alarms. The world was always knocking, and I was always answering. But one Tuesday, not a special Tuesday, not a holiday or birthday, just a Tuesday, I didn't turn on the TV. I don't remember why. Maybe it was a moment of forgetfulness, or maybe grace sometimes arrives disguised as accident. I stood there, coffee in hand, the usual hum of urgency strangely absent. The dog was curled up by the kitchen door, breathing softly, unconcerned with headlines or deadlines. The sun was beginning its slow rise, casting thin streaks of gold across the cabinets. And instead of moving, I sat down. No phone, no book, no grand plan to meditate. Just me and the quiet. At first, I'll be honest, it felt awkward, like I was skipping school or forgetting something important. But as I settled into the silence, something in me, something old and familiar, began to stir. I looked out the window and noticed, truly noticed, the way the light touched the fence. There were birds singing, not just one, but a back and forth, like a morning conversation. And for a moment, I wasn't anyone's employee, anyone's fixer, anyone's problem solver. I was just here. In the Buddhist tradition, there's a word sati, often translated as mindfulness, but its deeper meaning is remembering, not remembering in the usual sense of recalling facts, but remembering to be where you are, remembering what matters, remembering the truth of the present moment. And that morning, I remembered, not some dramatic revelation, just this: life doesn't begin after the rush. It begins when you stop rushing. Later that day, something felt different. The usual tension in my shoulders had eased, like a tight knot, quietly loosening. I wasn't racing through the day. I was walking through it, one breath at a time. That stillness from the morning, it followed me, like a gentle presence I could return to at any moment. And I did return to it. The next day, and the day after that. 5 minutes. No news, no noise. Just the sound of the spoon stirring the cup, the breath in my chest, the light on the floor. It became a ritual, not a rigid practice, but a quiet offering. A way of saying to the day, I will meet you, not as a warrior rushing into battle, but as a friend willing to listen. And so I ask you, gently, how do your mornings begin? Do they start with pressure or presence? Do you give yourself even 5 minutes to arrive before the world begins pulling at you? Because sometimes 5 quiet minutes can reveal more peace than 5 years of striving. The Buddha once said, as a flower blooms in stillness, so too does wisdom. Perhaps it's not that the world is too loud, but that we've forgotten how to listen. And maybe, just maybe, your next beginning doesn't require you to do anything except be here, exactly as you are, in the first light of day. In the next chapter, I'll share with you how something as mundane as folding laundry, yes, laundry, taught me more about presence and love than any self-help book ever did. Chapter 3. Folding the Fabric of a Life. It's funny, isn't it, how we spend our younger years rushing past the small things, assuming the meaning of life lies somewhere down the road in the promotion, the vacation, the next big chapter. Folding laundry, that was always background noise, a chore to get through, something to finish, not feel. But then came a quiet afternoon after retirement, the kind of afternoon when the clock moves slower and the world doesn't seem to need you quite so urgently. I had just pulled a load of laundry from the dryer, still warm and soft, the clean scent rising like steam. I reached in, ready to toss it all into a basket like I always did, but something stopped me. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was the stillness in the house. Maybe it was the sudden awareness that there was nowhere else I had to be. So instead of rushing, I just stood there. I picked up a towel and felt its weight in my hands, noticed its edges, slightly frayed, like it had known many years and many uses. Then came my wife's pajama top, the one with the little blue flowers near the sleeves. I folded it slowly, smoothing the fabric as if tucking in a memory. And then it happened, quietly, gently, that ordinary act of folding turned into something more. Each item had a story. A t-shirt with a faint grass stain from when my grandson and I played catch last summer. A kitchen rag that still carried the ghost of tomato sauce from Sunday pasta night. Even my old flannel shirt, how many mornings had I worn it to pour coffee, step onto the porch, greet the day. With each fold, I was no longer just completing a task. I was caring. I was remembering. I was honoring the quiet rituals that had woven themselves into the fabric of my life, without me even noticing. In Buddhist teaching, there is a deep respect for the ordinary. The Zen monks of Japan, for instance, see sweeping the floor, washing the dishes, or arranging flowers not as chores, but as gateways to awareness. When you clean the floor, one teacher said, you clean the mind. And when you fold laundry with presence, you touch your life. I began to notice the sound of fabric as it moved through my hands, the rhythm, the warmth, the stillness wrapped in each motion. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't extraordinary, but it was real. And real has a quiet power all its own. That day, in the middle of the laundry room, I realized we spend so much time searching for meaning in the big events that we forget it's the smallest gestures that often hold the greatest weight. Not because they are grand, but because they are repeated, familiar, human. So let me ask you, gently, what parts of your daily life have you been rushing through, assuming they didn't matter? Could it be that the sacred is already here, waiting in the folds of an old towel, the scent of a worn shirt, the touch of fabric passed from one pair of hands to another? I used to fold clothes to get it done. Now, I fold to come home to myself. And in doing so, I've learned that peace doesn't always come from meditation cushions or mountaintops. Sometimes it comes from a laundry basket. Next, I want to take you outside with me, into the stillness of a morning walk, without a phone, without a plan, just the senses wide open and the world waiting to be seen again for the very first time. Chapter 4. Walking with empty hands and open eyes. It began, as many awakenings do, with something small. One morning, as I reached for my phone before heading out for a walk like I always did, I paused. It was a simple moment, barely noticeable. My hand hovered over the device, and for some reason I couldn't name, I set it back down on the counter. Maybe I was tired of the noise. Maybe my soul just whispered, "Not today." And so I stepped outside with nothing but my keys and an old windbreaker. No music, no headlines, no pings or buzzes chasing me down the street. Just my footsteps, the crisp morning air, and the quiet I had almost forgotten existed. At first it felt exposed, like I was missing something vital. I even patted my pocket once or twice out of habit. But after a few blocks, something shifted. I began to hear things, really hear them. The rustling of leaves in the trees above me wasn't just background anymore. It was like a conversation, soft and ancient, that had been going on long before I arrived and would continue long after I passed by. I smelled pine, not from a candle, not from a bottle, but from the real living thing, the big tree on the corner I must have walked past 100 times without noticing. Its bark was dark, rough, and deeply familiar. I reached out and touched it. And in that small gesture, something settled in me. The world felt real again. There's a teaching in Buddhism that says, the miracle is not to walk on water, but to walk on the earth with full awareness. And I felt that, with every step, I came back into contact, not just with the sidewalk or the trees or the breeze against my cheek, but with my own aliveness. It was a kind of walking meditation. No chanting, no incense, no shrine, just presence, just being there with my 5 senses wide open. The color of the sky, the crunch of gravel beneath my shoes, the scent of someone's breakfast wafting from a window, even the taste of the cool morning air as it passed through my throat. I call it now my 5-sense walk, and it's become a quiet ritual. On the days I do it, I come home feeling more grounded than any checklist ever made me feel. Not because I accomplished anything, but because I remembered something. I am still part of this world. Not watching it from a screen, not racing past it to get somewhere else, but in it, fully. A neighbor waved at me that morning. I waved back. It wasn't extraordinary, but the connection felt real, like we saw each other, not just past each other. And I thought, how many of these moments have I missed, simply because I was looking down instead of looking up? So I ask you now, not with judgment, but with tenderness. When was the last time you walked just to walk? Not to burn calories, not to reach a destination, but to simply meet the world with your senses alive and your heart quiet. We live in a world that teaches us to keep our hands full, our minds distracted, our attention split. But the truth is, there's a kind of healing that only happens when you walk with empty hands and open eyes. And maybe, just maybe, the path back to yourself begins not with a plan, but with a single step, taken slowly in silence. In the next chapter, I'll share what happened when I picked up the phone one quiet afternoon and called someone I hadn't spoken to in years. No occasion, no excuse. Just a simple act of reaching out, and the deep reminder that we're all still connected, even when life pulls us far apart. Chapter 5. The Call That Reconnected Two Souls. It was a quiet afternoon. The kind where the clock ticks a little louder and the wind outside seems to slow down with you. I had finished folding laundry. The dog was asleep by the door, and the tea on the table had gone cold without me noticing. I wasn't sad, exactly, just still. And out of nowhere a thought drifted in, soft as dust in a sunbeam. Call Mike. Mike, my old friend. We used to talk every week. back when work and kids and barbecues tied our lives together. But life, as it does, had scattered us like autumn leaves, different cities, different routines, and no falling out, just the slow silence that grows when no one reaches out first. I stared at the phone for a long moment, hovered my thumb over his name. You know that feeling, that odd little knot in your gut that whispers, what if it's awkward? What if he's busy? What if he doesn't even remember you in the same way anymore? But I pressed the button. 3 rings. Then that familiar voice, gravely, a little slower now, but still unmistakably him. Hello? I said. Hey. It's me. I was just thinking about you. There was a pause long enough to make me doubt. Then a small, warm laugh. Well, I'll be damned, he said. And just like that, the thread between us pulled tight again. We talked for over an hour. Not about anything grand. His knee had been acting up. My tomatoes hadn't grown right this year. His daughter was pregnant. My grandson had lost his first tooth. Simple things, but full of life. And you know what surprised me the most? Not how much I missed talking, but how much I missed being known. Mike knew a version of me that existed long before titles, before the grey hair, before the quiet afternoons. He knew the man who got lost on camping trips and laughed too loud at bad jokes, and once cried over his first child's fever. And I knew the same of him. That kind of knowing. It doesn't fade. It just waits. The Buddha taught that connection is not measured by time, but by sincerity. And in that moment I saw clearly we spend so much of our lives waiting for a reason to reach out. A birthday, a holiday, some urgent news. But what if today is reason enough? Since that call, I've started a small practice. Every few days, I reach out to one person by phone, by text, sometimes just a little note in the mail. Nothing dramatic, just presence, just proof. You still matter. I still see you. We live in a world of instant messages and busy signals. But what we truly crave isn't speed, it's sincerity. A voice, a pause, a you crossed my mind. So let me ask you gently, who is waiting, quietly, in your heart? Not because they need something, but because the thread between you has grown loose with time. What would it feel like to pick it up again? Sometimes, healing doesn't come from fixing anything. It comes from remembering that we are still part of each other's stories, that the spaces between us aren't as wide as they seem. And so that call with Mike, unexpected, ordinary, beautiful, became a doorway, a reminder that we are never as alone as we think. Sometimes all it takes is a few seconds of courage and a little curiosity. Next, I'd like to share with you the practice that grew from this realization. A list I wrote one morning. Nothing fancy, just scribbled on a piece of scrap paper that changed how I see what enough really means. Chapter 6. The enough list. It happened on a Sunday morning, one of those slow golden ones where the air feels like honey and time seems to take a breath with you. I was sitting at the kitchen table, the house unusually quiet, no errands, no obligations, no one asking where the car keys were. Just me, a lukewarm cup of coffee, and the gentle sound of birds stitching their song through the trees outside. Next to me was a crumpled scrap of paper. I had intended to make a grocery list. Eggs, milk, maybe some bread. But instead, my pen hesitated, hovered, and without thinking, I wrote one single word at the top. Enough. I stared at it for a while. The word looked simple on the page, but it stirred something deeper. For years, no, for decades, I had lived with the quiet ache that maybe what I had wasn't quite enough. Not enough savings, not enough time, not enough success. Like life was always just over that next hill, if I could only run a little faster. But now, here I was, with nothing chasing me, and still, part of me was reaching. For what, exactly? So I sat still, pen in hand, and asked the question out loud. What already brings me peace? Not someday, not once I've earned it, but right now. And slowly, the list began to form. Sit on the porch with my dog, water the garden slowly, listen to a vinyl album, start to finish, no distractions, call someone, just to say thank you. Drink a glass of cold water and really taste it. Watch the sun set without taking a picture. Read a chapter from a book I've already read 5 times. Make breakfast for someone I love. Lay down in the grass and feel the earth hold me. Breathe deeply, just because I can. 10 things. None of them cost a dime. None of them required a suitcase or a schedule. And by the time I reached the last one, I noticed something had shifted. My breath had deepened. My shoulders had lowered. My heart felt lighter. In Buddhist teaching, there is a concept called tri-tuk, contentment, or literally, knowing what is enough. It is not about settling. It is about seeing clearly, without the fog of craving. It is a state where joy is no longer tied to acquisition, but to awareness. And as I looked at my list, I realized I didn't need to chase life. I needed to notice it. These days I keep that list close, not as a checklist, but as a compass. On restless afternoons, when the old ache for more starts to whisper again, I don't resist it. I just reach for the list. I choose one thing, just one, and return to what already makes me feel alive. So I wonder gently, sincerely, what's on your enough list? What small, quiet thing has made your heart soften lately? Not because it was spectacular, but because it reminded you that you're already here and already whole. We are taught to believe fulfillment comes from the future. But maybe, just maybe, it has always been sitting beside us at the kitchen table, waiting patiently to be named. In the next chapter, I'll share a moment that surprised me. How after years of chasing productivity, I finally faced the quiet and realized I was afraid of rest itself. Chapter 7. The Fear of Stillness. There's a kind of silence that doesn't soothe you right away, the kind that feels too wide, too still, like stepping into a room you once filled with laughter and now only echoes greet you. I met that kind of silence, not in a monastery, not on some quiet retreat in the mountains, but in my own living room, just 2 weeks after I retired. You'd think I'd be happy, finally free from schedules and stress, free to do whatever I pleased. But no one really prepares you for what happens when you take off the uniform, shut down the email, and wake up to a day that doesn't demand anything from you. I sat in my favorite chair, one I used to collapse into after long days, and suddenly it felt foreign. The same coffee, the same light through the window. But I didn't know what to do with myself, and honestly, it scared me, not because I was bored, because I realized for so long my value had been tied to being needed. Who was I? Now that no one was waiting on me, now that no one was asking for something, now that the noise had stopped, that's when I saw it. Beneath the surface of all my busyness wasn't peace. It was avoidance. Avoiding the quiet. Avoiding the deeper questions. Avoiding myself. The Buddha once taught, all conditioned things are impermanent. The only refuge is awareness. And in that silence, I came face to face with something I had conditioned myself to outrun, the fear of simply being. I used to think rest was earned, that it came after hard work, that it needed a reason. But what if rest is not the absence of work, but the presence of wholeness? The truth was, I didn't know how to rest. Not really. I knew how to collapse. I knew how to distract. I knew how to stay busy, but I didn't know how to sit down and feel okay, unaccomplished, unproductive, and yet still worthy. There's a story in the Buddhist tradition about a monk who approached his teacher with frustration, saying, "I have meditated for years, and I still feel restless." The teacher looked at him kindly and said, "Maybe it is not peace you are missing, but your willingness to receive it." That story found me, years later, in that quiet room. So I began slowly. One morning, I allowed myself to sit without a to-do list. No background TV, no scrolling, just the sound of the birds and the soft hum of the refrigerator. I felt awkward, even a little guilty, like I was wasting time. But I stayed, and over time, I began to notice something extraordinary. The stillness was not empty. It was full of breath, full of forgotten thoughts, full of space to feel again. And maybe that's what I had been afraid of all along. Not boredom, but the truth that rises when we stop filling every moment. The truth that we are enough, even when we're not performing. So I ask you gently, when was the last time you sat in stillness? Not to accomplish anything, but simply to listen. And what did the silence have to say? You see, the fear of stillness is really the fear of meeting ourselves without distraction. But the paradox is, that's where peace lives, not in the next task or the next achievement, but in this moment, if we dare to stay. In the next chapter, I'll share how I learned to turn those moments of stillness into something even deeper, a daily ritual of presence that now begins every morning, not with ambition, but with breath. Chapter 8. Permission to pause. There's a certain kind of ache that settles in your chest when you've been moving too long. It's not physical, really, not a pain that a doctor would find, but a quiet tightening, like your heart forgot how to rest. For most of my life, I mistook that feeling for motivation. I called it drive, discipline, even strength. But now, looking back, I wonder if it was just exhaustion, dressed up in noble clothes. It wasn't until I gave myself permission to pause that I realized how deeply I'd been wired to keep going. It started with something so small, you'd laugh. One morning, I sat at the table, coffee in hand, and didn't open my laptop, didn't check my phone, didn't pick up a newspaper. I just sat. And for the first time in years, I noticed the steam rising from the mug, curling like incense into the morning light. I noticed the sound of my breath, the softness in the dog's snore at my feet, the way the curtain danced ever so slightly from the breeze creeping in through the window crack. 5 minutes passed, and in those 5 minutes, something unexpected happened. The weight in my chest eased. I hadn't solved anything. I hadn't done anything worth reporting, but I had done something sacred. I was here, fully. In Buddhist practice, this moment of awareness, this non-doing, is not laziness. It is vipassana, the practice of seeing clearly, of allowing what is to be seen and felt, without pushing or pulling, without striving, without fixing. And it is in those quiet, ordinary minutes that the mind, which has been galloping for decades, finally learns to soften. You begin to feel the truth you'd been too busy to hear, that life doesn't always need you to manage it. Sometimes it simply asks you to meet it. But I'll be honest with you, it wasn't easy at first. Pausing felt like betrayal, like I was letting someone down, maybe even myself. I kept asking, shouldn't I be doing something? Shouldn't I be helping? But as the days went on, I began to realize something profound. There is a difference between movement and meaning. You can fill a calendar and still feel empty. You can rush all day and never touch the present. But when you pause, truly pause, you create space for the sacred to enter, not through effort, but through openness. And so I made a quiet vow to myself. Each morning before I join the world, I will first join myself. Sometimes it's 5 minutes, sometimes 10. No rules, no gold stars, just permission. Permission to breathe before the demands arrive. So let me ask you, have you allowed yourself to pause lately? Not because you earned it, but because you are alive. Can you sit without fixing, without feeding the urge to scroll, plan, or achieve? The truth is, you don't need anyone to grant you this pause. Not a boss, not a badge, not even a reason. The permission was always yours. You are not falling behind. You are arriving. And sometimes, arriving begins with a single breath and the courage to do absolutely nothing. In the next chapter, I'll take you even deeper, not into stillness, but into the tender act of returning. How presence, when practiced again and again, becomes a doorway to meaning in the smallest of moments. Chapter 9. Returning to presence, again and again. It's a strange thing how many times we have to come home to ourselves before we realize we've never truly left. Not in the way that matters. Even after learning to pause, even after tasting the sweetness of silence, I found myself drifting, not out of rebellion or forgetfulness, but simply because the world is loud and old habits run deep. One day, I'd feel grounded, peaceful, soft. The next, I'd wake up scrolling the news again before my feet even touched the floor, and I'd think, how did I get here so fast? But here's what I've come to learn. Presence is not a destination. It's a returning, over and over, moment by moment, without shame. There's a story in the Zen tradition about a student who asked his teacher, "How do I stay mindful all the time?" The teacher smiled and replied, "You don't. You just notice when you've left, and you come back. That's the practice." That teaching gave me more peace than any rigid rule ever could, because it reminded me that I didn't have to be perfect. I just had to be willing to return. So I began to notice the moments when I was drifting, not with judgment, but with tenderness. Folding the laundry and rushing through it again, I'd slow down and feel the fabric. Walking the dog while thinking about the grocery list, I'd stop, take a breath, and look up at the sky. Talking to my grandson while half distracted by the TV, I'd mute the screen and give him my full eyes, my full ears, my full heart. Every moment became an invitation to come back. In Buddhist teaching, this returning is the essence of practice. It's not about constant concentration. It's about compassionate awareness. Each time we notice we've wandered, and we choose to return, we strengthen the muscle of presence. We nourish the seed of awakening. And what's beautiful is these returns don't need to be grand. You can return to presence while stirring soup, while tying your shoes, while watching the light shift across the floor. You can return while breathing, just breathing. And the more you do it, the more these moments stitch themselves into the rhythm of your life, like threads of gold woven into everyday cloth. You don't need incense or bells. You just need willingness and a little curiosity. So I invite you to reflect. Where have you been rushing lately? Not just in movement, but in mind. And what might happen if you softened your pace? Not for good, not forever, but just for this moment. Let go of perfection. Welcome the return. Because the path home is not a straight line. It's a gentle spiral, and each time you come back wiser, softer, a little more awake. In the next and final chapter, we'll rest together in the quiet beauty of the ordinary. How in the still corners of daily life, we often find the sacred waiting for us with open arms. Chapter 10. The Sacredness of the Ordinary. There's a kind of beauty that doesn't sparkle. It doesn't announce itself with fanfare or call attention in grand gestures. It simply is. Quiet. Constant. Waiting. I discovered it one afternoon while sitting in my old wooden chair by the window, the same chair I've sat in 1,000 times, but that day something felt different. The sunlight was spilling onto the floor in that golden, drowsy way it does in late autumn. The room smelled faintly of cinnamon and old books, and in that still moment, I looked around, not searching for anything, just looking, and I saw it. A coffee mug, chipped but familiar, my wife's slippers, worn at the heel, a framed photo on the wall, slightly crooked. The way the curtain danced, ever so gently, with the breeze. Nothing new, nothing spectacular, and yet it moved me. You see, we spend so much of life chasing the extraordinary, the once-in-a-lifetime moments, the fireworks, the mountaintops, and yes, those moments are breathtaking, but they're rare, and if we only measure life by the peaks, we miss the vast, quiet expanse in between, where most of our days unfold. The Buddha taught that enlightenment is intimacy with all things, not just the dramatic or the holy, but the utterly mundane. To drink tea and taste it fully, to sweep the floor and feel the rhythm in your hands, to hear the rain on the roof and know you are safe. That is the sacredness of the ordinary. It reminds me of a simple moment not long ago. My grandson was over for the afternoon. He had just come in from the yard, cheeks flushed from play, and climbed into my lap, holding a peanut butter sandwich with a bite already missing. He didn't say much, just leaned into me, warm and still, and I remember thinking, this is it, this is life, this is prayer. No ceremony, no perfect words, just presence, just love, in its simplest form. We think spirituality has to be grand, robes, temples, chants, but what if holiness is also in the way we butter toast for someone we love, the way we tuck in the edges of a blanket, the way we sit quietly with someone who is grieving without needing to fix a thing? So I ask you, gently, what ordinary thing have you overlooked today? What small act, if done with care, might become sacred in your hands? Sometimes we don't need more answers. We just need to notice the breath in your lungs, the rhythm of your steps, the warmth of a bowl of soup between your palms, the sound of someone calling your name. These are not filler moments. They are the heart of life itself. And so, my dear listener, if you take nothing else from this journey, I hope you take this. You don't need to seek the sacred. You only need to slow down enough to see it, because it's already here, in the soft light, in the quiet room, in the presence of your own breath. You have not missed it. It has been waiting for you all along. Now, as we close, I'll leave you with a question, not to answer quickly, but to carry gently. What is one ordinary moment in your life that, when seen with open eyes, becomes extraordinary? Hold it, cherish it, and let it remind you, this too is enough. Thank you for walking this journey with me. May peace find you not in faraway places, but right where you are, quietly, patiently, completely.